My name is Goska Isphording, and I am a harpsichord player and member of Riot Ensemble, a London-based ensemble for contemporary music. Riot is different from other contemporary groups in lots of ways, but one of them is that we have a harpsichord as one of our core instruments. This has a direct impact on the repertoire we play and the commissions we give. One of those commissions is this one from Bára Gísladóttir. This is already our third commission from Bára, and it is by far the biggest. In this film, I will take you behind the scenes of Riot rehearsals for the work's premiere at the Huddersfield Contemporary Music Festival, and together with Bára, we will explore the harpsichord and the special role she has given to it in her music.
The harpsichord has a very, very special and unique soundscape and ability, and I think it is because it is the warmest of instruments. Its temperature somehow is very high, I feel, and it feels extremely, I don't know what to say, amiable, and it really feels like an embrace and an embrace of other sound. And this also applies to early music, because early music without the harpsichord is something naked. A lot of the time it can be beautiful, but the harpsichord really frames things in, and this is what I find so beautiful about the instrument. I mean, the keyboard has a lovely sound, but it is limited, and when you use the whole body of the instrument, you have this warmest of worlds. But they are quite different from a string instrument, because I feel that, for example, on the bass or any other string instrument, it is not this warmth. And this is so special about the instrument. This is why I like it so much and enjoy writing for it.
What strikes me first is Bára's approach towards the instrument, which goes much further than just keyboardship. As well as playing at the keyboard, she asks for string techniques like bowing and overpressure, which can be connected to her background as a double bass player. Does she think these distinct string techniques offer new possibilities and directions for harpsichord in 21st century?
There's huge possibility in sort of, enriching this instrument, the use of the instrument, because it has a huge string body, huge soundboard, and these strings that are amazing, and there is so much potential in using this. And I think also because, as we've spoken about several times, that the lack of dynamics, and this really creates dynamics. With the use of cymbals, for example, you can go from just niente and to something extremely strong, and I really like it because it's still, the harpsichord still contains its sound. It does not sound like a piano. Definitely not. It's a totally different thing. And it has its own, sound world. And to hear that in dynamic use, I really enjoy this as a listener. Yeah. The Moon is an Eye is a Pound, and so on and so forth, is by far the biggest piece I've ever written. It's very much based on an idea of everything being everything. Everything is in one, and that we have different mirroring and shadows of a universe, and if you can go down an elevator to the same floor, -7 floors, but you will come to a completely different world each time. Meaning that you can have paradise on -7, and you can have a horrible, horrible place that we don't even want to imagine.
What's absolutely extraordinary is that the duration of this piece is so fantastically substantial. It's over an hour long. What's amazing about it is it has very few notes, and yet so much energy and so much action.
it because there's a certain amount of freedom. She literally just gives you half a minute or a minute and says, do whatever you like based on the material that I've given you so far in this piece. And it's just fun.
The noise level and the variety of sound that is being produced is very wide. There are some effects that I've never done before. We cut some sheet metal, so using an angle grinder. That's an effect we'll be doing at one of the climaxes of this piece.
It is very extraordinary to be able to trust an ensemble. Like, I think everybody can trust Riot because the players and everyone involved are ever curious, ever open, very positive. And if something doesn't work, there is this solution-oriented way of handling things. And this gives so much richness to every collaboration I imagine you have.
When looking at the score of Bára's newest work, one can see, among many intriguing movement titles, one called A Walk for Goska. I cannot help but ask the composer about the idea behind her titles.
Before I start writing, most of the time I have all the titles ready. Not only the title of the piece, but most of the time I also use titles for the movements. But we always play through everything continuously. So I think this has a double function. It's for me as a structure and a skeleton, and it's also for the players to see that there's something also non-musical about the approach to the work. In one of these movements, and because there are 3 different movements like these, then each has a different variation, and one is called A Walk for Goska. And it is because you said to me, Goska, to go for a walk when I was stuck in the writing process. You said this to me in Warsaw. I hope that these different titles can help with the interpretation of the piece. It's not that I expect anyone to become very inspired or change their way of playing, but perhaps feel more secure or safer even, to very, very literally see the world that we are speaking of in words.
So today is our second day of rehearsal, very special because we add the layer of electronics for the full experience of the piece. So very excited all together.
Turn them on.
The way I use the harpsichord as well as the piano and the guitar in this new piece also as electronic triggers. So all the electronics in the piece are based on what these instruments are doing. And I've been using the harpsichord always as an electronic triggerer. It is a very convenient instrument to use for live electronics. And I think it is because it's sort of safe, because it's practically you're away from the microphones and all of this, as if you're a string player, you have like your breath in the microphone and so on. But it's also because of these extremities in the landscape of the instrument. It can catch everything from the finest movements in the high register with small cymbals to some very, very grotesque bowing in the lowest register. So it gives huge fertility to potential electronic sounds.
The question that comes naturally is how to approach such a fragile instrument as a harpsichord with this extreme and certainly not indifferent. There are many critical voices who are against such practices on the harpsichord and other instruments because of the risk of damage that they pose. Is Bára aware of such resistance, and how does she respond to it?
This happens all the time, but actually not with the harpsichord, because I have noticed that I think maybe it is because it's less common to play this instrument than, let's say, the flute. And I feel that the harpsichordists that I have worked with are very open, very curious. And mostly it's not about damaging, but it's because the instrument becomes detuned. Generally, I have only had very curious approaches from the players. Very. Maybe they are very happy that they're receiving something new, I'm not sure. Because for other instruments, there's maybe a broader repertoire in new music. And then there's also a lot of new music that maybe doesn't sound so new. I think for a composer, I cannot really describe the privilege in working with such an ensemble, because I think most composers are very curious in new sound, obviously, and then it is so heartwarming to meet somebody that shares this with you. So it's really it is always my favorite part of the year. Or favorite parts of the year. Sometimes we're lucky to have more than once. This is the best time for me to work with this ensemble.